What's up, guys? It's Darren from Here's Avenue, and this is a Justice League spoiler review. So if you haven't watched Justice League yet, definitely go to the theaters right now, watch the movie, and then come back to this channel and click on the video and let's discuss it from there. But if you have watched the movie, I'm going to do a breakdown review of Justice League. I watched it twice already. I loved it more the second time, and I'm excited to go, to discuss this with you. I'm excited to just go over my positives and my negatives, and I'm gonna tell you my score right after all that. So let's just go straight into it. So my positive is I'm gonna first start off with Batman and Wonder Woman's introduction. Man, I loved how this movie opened up with Batman in Gotham City right after the Superman footage. I loved seeing Batman in this Gotham City. I love how it looks. It looks super dark, and the aesthetic wise, it looked really convincing. I loved how Batman was hunting down a bad guy and using him for bait for the parademon. Oh I was I was geeking out. I was geeking out already from the from the start. And then seeing Batman, fighting the parademon in the air, I just my mind just could not believe what I was seeing at that point. I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm watching Batman fight a parademon. I've been waiting for this for so long. Oh man, so that was really awesome to see. And then him catching him in the net, and then the parademon blowing up, and we see that green goo that we're supposed to see. That was really cool. Um, and Wonder Woman, man, with that Wonder Woman introduction was awesome. Um, her using her gauntlets to deflect all the bullets and how fast she did against the machine gun. I didn't think they were gonna do something like that, but wow, that just wowed me. Um, and how the bomb that the bad guy set it for like 13 seconds, and Wonder Woman used every second literally to punch and defeat the bad guy. And then when she had at least 1 or 2 seconds left, she grabbed the bomb, threw it up in the air, and it exploded, and she saved the day. Um, and man, I was one of those guys that were just yelling in the theater, that just reacting to everything. Um, because man, the entire room was so engaged. I loved it. So much energy in the room. It's perfect start for this movie. My next positive is the team. I really love the chemistry with all the team members. You could tell these actors had a great time. You could tell, Ezra Miller was definitely the comedic value of this movie. You see right when Barry sees the Batcave, he's just running around, as if we would, as if we would geek out if we were in Batman's cave, right? He ran everywhere in this cave, went in his Batmobile, and man, I think that was really cool to see. It was really cool to see the dynamic between Wonder Woman and Batman's, their views against what they were trying to do with Superman's body. I loved how Batman had this like scientific, like logical route, and Wonder Woman was more going for the morale of it, like how unethical it is to bring back someone from the dead. But Batman was like, no, this works. This is our best option. And at that time, we just learned about the Mother Box and what it could do through Cyborg, and it seemed to be the best decision for the team. And because he brought them all together, so I feel like Diana basically had to go with his decision. And I loved how Batman pushed her buttons and brought up Steve Trevor, and man, I loved her reaction. She just like got so pissed, just pushed him, just lightly touched him, but she, aggressive enough where like I could tell it hurt his chest. Um, and then he told her like, where were you all these years, right? And Superman stood for hope. He was for the world, and where were you? And because she's such a, she's a god, but she was gone all these years, and that's something that she is very insecure about, but she is now embracing. So I thought I thought their opposite views were really cool to see in this movie. And I really loved how with Flash and Cyborg, I loved how they're digging the grave. We'll get to that in a minute, but I love how they're having that conversation when they're digging up Superman's grave and saying how like they were both they both came from accidents. And it really showed how different these characters are compared to the Avengers, because you know, most of these heroes come from a tragic event in their life, whether that's losing a family member, getting struck by lightning, getting into an explosion, and yeah, you could just tell all these characters and these actors just had fun. And like one thing I also liked was the teamwork that the league had. You know, when I watch a team up movie and an ensemble cast, I want to see each and every individual character have their own mission, um, in the grand scheme of it all. And they did just that, just like in the comic books, just like in the cartoons. In the final scene with Steppenwolf and versus the Justice League, you have Cyborg, doing the techie stuff, trying to separate the mother boxes, and then you have Flash. What he can only do is save people, and also fight as many parademons as he can, because he runs so fast. And then you have Batman, who's he's just a human. He can only fight parademons. He can't stand up against Steppenwolf because he's not that strong. So he did that. And then you have the muscle. You have Wonder Woman and Aquaman fighting against Steppenwolf. I thought their fight was really cool to see. It was kind of too much just seeing Steppenwolf just swing his axe around. It wasn't that impressive. He didn't seem that powerful, honestly. We'll also get to that in a minute. But it was just cool to see everyone have their own mission. And obviously, when Superman comes, he does everything. He saves the day. He saves the people. He also fights Steppenwolf, and he saves the day, as Superman should, right? And that was really cool to see. And my next positive is Mascara. The Mascara scene was so dope. My heart was pumping throughout the entire scene just because I didn't want Steppenwolf to get the mother box. It was cool to see every Amazon, use their arrows and kind of sacrificing themselves to get this mother box away from Steppenwolf. And it was just really cool to see them like work together, and just for one goal, and which didn't they couldn't complete, unfortunately. My next positive was Atlantis. Atlantis was really cool to see. I had my judgments at first. I was like, how are they gonna do this? Is this gonna look real? How much CGI are they gonna use? How are they gonna talk underwater? Is it gonna sound convincing? It was really cool to see how they use the air bubble for them to actually talk, and how you actually saw like when they were trying to communicate with each other, you could see the waves, the I guess the vibrations through the water, and showed like how they talk to each other. They could sense what each other are saying through those vibrations. And it was really cool to see Mara too. You could kind of tell there's a slight accent in that scene with her and Aquaman, but that was really cool to see. And my other positive was all the Easter eggs. I think the Easter eggs were primarily just in the Steppenwolf's background scene. We got to see Green Lantern. We got to see. I hope it was maybe Shazam, but I think it's probably Zeus. I geeked out so much. I'm sure you guys did too. I was trying to see who that Green Lantern was. I couldn't really recognize him. I don't think they were like a main character like Abin Sur or Tomar Ray. Definitely not Kilowog. It's one of the old Green Lanterns that I'm not totally familiar with. But you do see one of them use their Green Lantern power. I think they use like a fist, and then you do see one of them die, and then the ring does go up in the air and finds another host. And it was just really cool to see. I was trying to look for a little Easter egg. I was trying to look for a Martian Manhunter. People keep saying that he's in it. I couldn't see him, unfortunately. I don't think he's quite there. I think some people think he was in there, but I don't think he really was. not much other Easter eggs besides that, and then obviously the after credits with Slade Wilson. That was pretty cool. That got me hyped but sad at the same time because I don't know what's gonna happen after this in the DCU. I don't think they're gonna, if you know if they don't make enough money, I don't think they're gonna continue on with the universe. Quite honestly, just because the ratings were so low. But yeah, moving on. My next positive is Superman versus the League. This is after his resurrection. I thought this was really cool to see. I love the line with Superman and Batman. It was like I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. When Superman brought Batman's face close to him, it was like, "Do you bleed?" I was like, "Oh shit! Oh shit! Damn!" So that was really cool to see. That wowed me. And then obviously we see Flash running while Superman's holding Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and Cyborg. And then he turns his eye when Flash tries to get him from behind. Superman looks at him, and then he actually is fast enough to get the Flash. So like that first eye movement, I was like, "Oh shit!" Dude, everyone in the room was just screaming because it's Superman and the Flash. Like we were trying to see who's faster. There's been a huge debate who's faster, who's stronger, whatever. Um, but it was really cool to see how that played out. I guess that's all I'm trying to say. And obviously, there's another one with Superman and Wonder Woman fighting against each other. The headbutt contest, like first Superman headbutts Wonder Woman, and then Wonder Woman headbutts him, and then Superman flies up in the air and then headbutt her to the ground. Man, I was just geeking out. Man, that was so cool. That was so epic to see. Yeah, that was really awesome to see. And my final positive is Superman's return with Steppenwolf. I think he came at a perfect time because Steppenwolf was beating everyone's ass, and he just destroyed him. He just like overpowered Steppenwolf because Steppenwolf, if you guys don't know, he's not as threatening as Darkseid, so he can't. He should be overpowered by Superman. But we finally got to see Superman use his frost breath against his axe, and we just see him use all of his abilities, like his laser beams. I was just going nuts. Like this was like a really aggressive Superman that we normally see, and then we see him saving the day. Like his main priority was to save people, and then take care of what needs to be dealt with. And then we see him, carrying the entire apartment, while Flash just like, he celebrates him just like himself, like saving this family, but Superman saving this entire apartment or building. That was really funny to see. But that was something that, that's something that we all been wanting, right? We all been wanting the Superman, the Boy Scout Superman. And we finally, there's been an arc from Man of Steel, from to Batman vs Superman to this, and we're finally getting that. And so that was really cool to see. And yeah, I think his return made sense at this point of time, and so I really liked how he came back and helped everyone else when they're all getting their ass beat. All right, so now let's get down to the negatives. So my first negative point is the 2 hour movie time. I think this really impacted the movie. Like the pacing was very fast. In the beginning, it was very fast. I think when they were introducing all the characters, I feel like each scene was like 5 minutes, 5 minutes long. It was very fast. Quick cuts here and there. It was really noticeable just because I think I knew about it beforehand, so I had that in my mind, and so I really like I was really aware of the time, and that really distracted me from the story because I wanted more of these things to flesh out more and breathe more between scenes. But every scene was just straight to the point, just straight to the point. I think they just wanted to push the story forward, just to get everyone together to unite. But eventually, once I think once you hit like the hour mark, or the 45 to an hour mark, things start to slow down and breathe more. But once it hit the end, you know, there is not much of like they celebrated kind of too quickly, and I feel like the end was really fast, and I feel like they just wanted to just end the movie right after the fight was over. So I feel like that was really quick. I think that kind of bothered me quite a bit. But hey, man, I guess we have to wait for the Ultimate Edition where it's like 3 hours, right? So let's hope that does come out. So my second point is the resurrection of Superman. I think this was another lazy way for Superman. Like, I expected, like, I really had some high expectations on how he was gonna get resurrected, how he was gonna come back. Like, I did not. I felt really awkward when they were digging up his grave, and I was like, wait, this is actually happening? Like, this is embarrassing. Like, how are you gonna? How are the writers gonna think like this is the best route out of everything that we read in the source material? Like we couldn't bring him to the sun, we couldn't bring him to like the Kryptonian pod. Like, we could have done anything besides dig him up out of the grave and use the mother box. I think that was super lazy way to do it, but I understand why they did it. I think they wanted to just bring everything together. But I think if we use the pods, I think that would have been the best way to, refer back to the Man of Steel movie. I feel like using the codec to resurrect his body would have been tight, and it would have felt natural. But this one, it felt like really realistic and something that I feel like us would like come up with. But I'm assuming, this was reshot. I feel like this portion of the movie was reshot, and I don't think this was the original idea to go, previously before Joss Whedon got his hands on it. So my next negative aspect is the obvious reshoots, and the CGI and the wigs that were involved, such as Superman and the camera footage, the Superman in the field scene. That was super noticeable. I was getting a little distracted because of his wig. He was wearing a wig, and the CGI would look really bad in the background. The CG, the green screen that he was in, it was really bad. And his mustache, you could definitely tell his mustache was CG in that scene. And as well as I feel like his resurrection was a reshot. I don't think that was the initial scene. I feel like they shot that completely in post production. I definitely want to see Zack Snyder's vision more than what Joss Whedon did. And I feel like it really distracted me. But the second time watching it, I wasn't as distracted as I was initially, and I just enjoyed the film as is. So I'm assuming if you don't know any of the background noise that we do as like these hardcore nerds, I feel like most people wouldn't notice, and they wouldn't be as distracted as I was. My fourth negative aspect is Steppenwolf. I feel like Steppenwolf's character, I feel like his motivation wasn't as strong. It wasn't intimidating enough. Yes, he's strong. Yes, he's bad. But why is he bad? Why does he want to take over the Earth? It wasn't. I'm sure it was mentioned. I think it was mentioned one time, but it wasn't. He didn't say it enough. Like, he didn't elaborate on it. He kept saying mother, but we don't who know mother is. Is mother box associated with any goodness? Like, is it one of these characters in an apocalypse? Like, they didn't even mention apocalypse. Like, come on, man. Like, come on. Like, you're from this other planet. Talk about this other planet. Like, where are you jumping from? Where are you boom tombing from? Like, dude, like, people need to know where you're coming from, right? So we need to see the other worlds that he's in, and I feel like they really missed the ball. They really missed the target, and they could have done more. They could have put more in this movie. The reason why they couldn't put more in this movie is because this movie was 2 hours long. But yeah, if we had like 2.5 hours, at least 2.5 hours. Every movie now is around 2.5 hours. Like if we had that extra 30 minutes, most of these scenes here would have time to breathe. You know, some of these characters would have more of a backstory with Aquaman, Flash, Cyborg, Steppenwolf. You know, all these characters that are new to us in this universe. We don't know much about them, and like getting their backstory in there for that extra 30 minutes, I think that would have paid off. I think a lot of people would have enjoyed that. Would have liked seeing what apocalypse looked like, right? And I'm sure Darkseid was in there. And Darkseid, like, they only mentioned him once. Darkseid is basically like Thanos, um, in the DC world. So he is he's in this universe. Like he said his name once. We do see a symbol in Batman vs Superman, but we don't see him at all. Like, come on, man! Like you missed that mark again. My final negative point is all of the scenes that were removed from the final cut that we see in the trailers. Just like Suicide Squad, we didn't get most of those scenes that were in the trailers. Like I hate that. Why does DC do this to us? If you're gonna advertise something, I want to make sure that those scenes are in the movie. Like it's like you're not respecting the fans. You're not. It's like you don't care that you're taking things away from us. Like we're going to a movie to see these certain scenes, and obviously we want to see these characters. But you're advertising a certain scene. You better make sure that scene is in the movie. If not, like there's a huge disappointment, in this movie already. So like that really annoyed me. But all right, so with all the positive and negatives, with everything that I just said to you right now, I feel like the positives definitely outweigh the bad. And the second time watching it, I definitely ignored or didn't really notice all the negative aspects that I just mentioned. And I think that's because the first time I was watching, I was really nitpicky with everything that I was watching. I was really focusing on every little detail, and sometimes that's not the great way to go about watching your favorite anticipated movie. But unfortunately, that's how it was for me. But the second time, I loved it. It was way better than the first time. I wasn't as critical as I was the first time, so definitely give this movie a solid 8. Definitely deserves that. This is a great direction for DCEU. I'm not sure what's going to happen next, just because the Rotten Tomato score was really bad. I think it's in the 30s right now. But sounds to me that everyone that I've been talking to really love this movie. So let's hope this movie gets a really good box office number after this weekend. So let's pray we get a sequel, because it's not looking likely. But yeah, those are all my thoughts. Definitely comment below, like this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.